Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or good day wherever you are in the world, and welcome to the next episode of No Dice, No Glory. Sponsored by our jobs that actually pay us money, we're coming to you not at all live from an abandoned arms factory deep under a mountain in West Virginia. We are proud to proffer to you the finest in wargaming coverage. Without any further ado, let's get this show on the road.
Thank you for that peppy intro, Sean. You know, Ed, tonight I want to address the elephant in the room. What bear is best?
What bear is best? That's an interesting question. I do like polar bears, but a koala bear is very cute.
Well, you're on the wrong train of thought there, Ed. The correct answer is Red Bear, which is a late war book for the Soviets and other nations. Your silence astounds me, Ed. It was a joke. You're supposed to laugh.
The only thing that popped in my head was Rich Bear.
Oh my goodness. Anyway, no, tonight, as per our listeners' request, we have mid-war Soviet infantry on the table. Why they are the way they are, and how to stop those light tank pesky swarms with your infantry lists.
Yeah, we got a lot of great questions, a lot of feedback in regards to mid-war, especially in regards to infantry. So we have a lot of great topics to hit about. We aren't able to hit all of the topics today, but we have many planned, many more podcasts coming up. But while we're on that subject, Austin, did you get any interesting emails recently?
Work called. They said that I don't have to come to work on Monday.
Oh, besides that, did you get anything maybe from Battlefront?
Oh, there was that one pesky email, Dave asking for my master's invite lists.
Well, let's talk a little about that. What's the setup going to look like?
Well, this year, Masters, for anyone that doesn't know, is the culminating event for the tournament season. It's going to be in Indianapolis this year. And the format that they've chosen to go with this year is going to be over 6 games, over 2 days. You go up and play against the top 18 players listed. And the format this year will be rounds 1 and 2 are going to be set at 62 points. Rounds 3 and 4 are going to be set at 88 points. And rounds 5 and 6 are going to be set at 106 points.
Wow.
So you're also limited in the formations you can take. You can't take the same formation combos at the 62 points and the 88 point list. So you're going to have to come up with 5 to 6 probably different lists that you have to submit ahead of time. So no looking at what people have at the tournament. You have to submit your list ahead of time and then do your best once you get up there. So it looks like it's going to be interesting.
So if I'm hearing you right, if I'm a Soviet player, I wouldn't be able to take a tank list for all 6 games.
Yes and no. So it's looking like you're going to be able to take your T-34, your mixed tank company, but you cannot take that mixed tank company for game 2 as well. So you'd have to change it up to where that's your secondary formation, and your primary formation will now be the rifle battalion.
What's a great thing we're going to be discussing Russian infantry later on, isn't it?
Well, hopefully. I don't want to give away too many of my tactics, but we'll definitely get into plenty of information about the Russians.
Well, Austin, congrats on making the Masters. I know it's 2 years in a row for you. You got finished second last year. Let's try to get that trophy for No Dice of Glory this year.
I will try my hardest.
And while we're talking about that, in the feedback we received, guys, I really have to say I've been overwhelmed by the feedback we received from you guys on Facebook, on NoDiceNoGlory.com, on the website, as well as the forums. Your feedback really means a lot to me, and we're going to try to answer everything you guys throw at us and help improve you guys as well as learning from you guys as well.
Ed hit it on the nail with that. We had so much feedback from the first week. We have the next 3 or 4 podcasts already planned out, and you guys just keep coming with that information, and we will keep putting out these podcasts.
And with that in mind, I'm going to bring up the very first question we got. It was from Preston Jacobs, and he asked on Facebook, with the high point value that comes with the rifle and penal companies, do you ever see them being played? And if so, would you use them as an attacking force or defending force? Austin, this is right up your alley.
You're absolutely... Oh, I cannot wait to talk about this. One of my all-time favorite lists and best lists are my no-vehicle Romanians. I used this list. It got me to Masters last year, and it helped me get there this year. So I used that concept as the basis when I was going through Enemy at the Gates. The basis of that list is there are no vehicles. So any AT asset I have to bring with me on foot. Or I use my infantry as my AT assets. I know that this is sometimes scary, thinking that, the tanks, what can infantry do against tanks, especially in mid-war in version 4? What can infantry do against tanks? And the question is, they can bail them out. Or the answer, I should say. The answer is they can bail them out, which doesn't sound scary until you bail out 3 or 4 tanks, and now that tank platoon is really hurting for units, because if they break off, now they're dead tanks. Not just that, but there is a command card that you can capture tanks that you bail out. So you can capture a 29-point Tiger tank and now have it on your on your side of the table,
which would be hilarious to see.
I've never actually seen it happen in a tournament, but I have heard stories of this happening several times.
That is certainly interesting. And to go with the penal company, we talked about getting assaulted, and we mentioned last week, sometimes where the best assault tactics is to keep coming back and force your opponent to fail a counterattack. The penal company's got a 2+ motivation rating with the Commissar. That's really hard to fail. You could have those massive tanks that are going to assault you that you can't do anything with, and you can force them back by not failing to counterattack.
No, that's right. And not just that, but with that amount of people, the penal company you can bring for 27 points, you can bring 30 infantry stands. Now, this is a war game, and there's the historical side to it, but then there's also the math side to this game. And command cards, whether they're gamey or not, they're a part of the game. And command cards for the Soviets are Molotov cocktails. And they are the sticky bombs for the British, or the... what is the one for the Germans?
I don't remember.
Panzer grenades?
Panzerknacker.
It's the same. Every country has a card like this. And for the Russians, it's the Molotov cocktail. Now, the Soviets, I think, to answer the question, are a really great counter-assaulting force. And I say that because it's going to be challenging, not impossible, but challenging to get a hit-on-threes unit into an assault in the numbers that you need them to do anything effective. However, counter-assaulting, the Soviets, the penal company, counter-assault on a 2+, so they're probably going to make it, and if your HQ is nearby, they will make it. And Soviets have a 6-inch charge radius, or counter-assault radius. So you can squeeze in a metric crap ton of Soviet duders with that 6-inch bubble. Now what this is going to do for you with a card like Molotov Cocktails, which gives you Tank Assault 3 for 1 round of an assault, is it's going to let you get in there with a massive amount of people and drop a ton of dice on those poor unsuspecting tanks. And instead of your Afrika Korps platoons, they get in with 4 infantry maybe. That's 4 swings, dropping 4 dice, needing 3s to hit. You're going to roll a 1 or a 2 in there, which is only going to be 3 effective hits, probably. Yep. With the penal company, with Molotov Cocktails, dropping probably somewhere between 14 to 17 dice, needing 4s because of For the Motherland, you're going to get probably in the neighborhood of 9+ 4s on those dice. Which, now 9 hits on tanks, a Tank Assault 3, that's something to worry about.
Yeah, and the big thing with Molotov Cocktails is to remember that it works for 1 assault round. So you want to save it when you know you're going to get, as Austin said, as many swings as you can. Because if you roll 10 swings, you hit 4 up. Let's say you're going to hit 5. And then he's got to roll 2 or less for a bail or a kill at this point. Because the firepower is not going to be an automatic. You want to get as many swings as you can, so you don't want to use it when you're only got 2 or 3 stands in. You want to use it when you have as many stands as possible in.
Yep, no, absolutely. So, but to answer the question, I think the penal company, initially you want to use them as a defensive unit.
Agreed.
And then counter-assault and wipe them out. In a test game that I played, when the Soviet book was just before it came out. I was privileged to get a copy of it beforehand, and we did a test game with some of my local players here. And the German player came in, he did 2 or 3 kills in the assault, and then the Soviets came back and they wiped out an 11-stand platoon in one assault phase. So counter-assaulting Soviets are deadly. Assaulting Soviets can be deadly. You just have to know how to maneuver those men to where they're going to get in on the assault and not get thrown back by defensive fire.
And another point I want to hammer down on, you talked about your Romanians. And if people don't aware of these Romanians, he could literally bring about 100 stands of Romanian infantry and maybe anywhere between 12 or 20 gun teams. No vehicles, no armor whatsoever. And you may look at this and go, well, how the hell is that going to beat a tank list? I had played against this very list with a tank list that had never seen a loss. Not once had it ever lost. It goes against Austin's and just gets pummeled. Just utterly beat. It's very well possible to take nothing but armor and gun teams and win games, but also it takes a skilled hand to maneuver it around.
No, and you're exactly right, and that's the reason I bring that list, is I think it's somewhat unexpected. People do not think that infantry are going to be effective, but a very aggressive infantry commander backed up by a strong AT base is very scary for a tank commander. 'Cause those guns are going to the guns are going to keep the tanks where you as the infantry player want them, or it's going to end up with dead tanks.
Yep.
And the infantry are what you're going to use to kill the tanks. You're going to take out some infantry support weapons with your firepower that you bring to the table, and then you're going to assault the tanks, either from the side, it knocks out hull MG teams, through smoke if you have smoke options. I know the Russians are kind of a little on the short end of the stick when it comes to smoke, but assaulting through terrain is a really great way to do this. Assaulting through buildings, putting your objectives near buildings to where tank teams have to come near buildings. It is possible to get assaults off without any defensive fire from tank vehicles. So your infantry, especially infantry like the Penal Company, I think are really interesting teams. Something else that should be said about the Penal Company: when you are building out your rifle company for the Soviets here, you have your HQ, which is 2 points. You have a rifle company, which, if I was building the list, I would take the 19 stand, not the 28 stand, because that's only 16 points. I found, going from version 3 to version 4, my Romanian list got even better when they split up the platoons from one very large platoon to 3 smaller platoons that were still decently sized. So taking that idea, bringing the small rifle company, bring a small rifle company and a small SMG company to bring the very large Penal Company.
Fully agree.
The Penal Company, I want to bring the large one for 2 reasons. 1, it's harder to kill, and 2, the Penal Company does not count against you when you lose the platoon. So you really can do whatever you want to with the Penal Company. There's a HMG platoon that needs to be assaulted, send in the Penal Company. There's a tank that needs to be assaulted, send in the Penal Company. These people have the Redemption Special Rule, which is a really awesome special rule, to where they don't count against you for points. So in version 4, your first platoon doesn't count as a loss. Your Penal Company does not count against you as a loss. So as a Soviet player running the Rifle Battalion, you have to lose 3 platoons before you take a loss of a victory point. So
I think the Penal Company plays very similar to the way I use Volkssturm in late war. You take 2 platoons, which you're going to take and hold the objective, and use the Volkssturm as a speed bump to stop your opponent from just steamrolling straight to the objective. You use the Volkssturm to try to delay your enemy a turn or 2, so you can try to get some more reserves in, set up your defenses, and get a basis of where your opponent's going to attack him. And with the Penal Company, you're going to be having 28 rifle stands in a Commissar team that are counterattacking on it too. Just sit them right in front of where your enemy is going to be coming in, and try to dig them in, or even just rush right at them and try to throw them off guard. And I think that will greatly help slow the enemy down to get him where you need to be to win in the defense.
No, you hit it. You're on the right track. If you can slow the enemy down as a defender, you're winning games. And if you are the attacker, the more aggressive you are, that you get on top of people before they get on their reserves. The Rifle Battalion has a lot of options, but that's all I would bring for formation. The rest of the Maximum MG Company, I wouldn't bring. The PTRDs, I wouldn't bring. The 76mm Anti-Tank Company, I wouldn't bring. Because if you go to support, you can bring the 76mm Artillery Battery, which is 2 points less, 8 points per 4 guns. Has the same direct fire capabilities as the 76 Anti-Tank Platoon, but it also gives you a artillery template with a 4 firepower AT2, 80-inch range. So these are real artillery guns that are punching the same as a 6-pounder or a Pac 36 for 8.
It's actually punching the same as the Pac 38.
Oh, sorry, Pac 38. You're right. For 8 points for 4 of them. They're hit on 3s. They do have a 4-up save. They are a large gun, but for the versatility and what is ridiculous, you can take 4 platoons of these guys. That's
32 points for, what is it, 16 guns at 18.9.
That's ridiculous. Now that will stop your tank swarms. That'll stop them dead in their tracks. There's no way I would send my Honey Stewarts against 16 anti-tank guns. Rate of fire 2, 18.9 with a 3-up firepower. That is ridiculous. And 18.9 is good enough to kill T-34s, Valentines, Grants, PZ-3s, PZ-4s. So, it's not the best AT out there, but it's good. And you can bring a bunch of them. So if you park those guys 6 inches behind your infantry line, move them up 4 inches at a time, they'll get there. I mean, they dash 6 inches, so you can get them up there, but move them up. They have gun shields. Move them up with your infantry, and there's no wise tank commander would send his tanks up against that until you start picking them off. But
absolutely,
with 3 platoons of infantry and 4 platoons of anti-tank guns, what are you as the enemy commander going to shoot at? If I don't shoot at the infantry are going to overwhelm me. If I don't shoot at the anti-tank guns, I can't come against that infantry. I think you could just bring so much with the Soviet Rifle Battalion that it would make it very difficult for a tank commander to go against this, I think.
Agreed. And I think that moves us on to our next topic, which is brought to us by Nathaniel J. Duncan, and he asked us on our No Dice No Glory website, what is an effective list for building infantry lists that are able to stop hard-striking tank lists? Examples are the Italian tanks, the Soviet front armor 6-BAM, American League companies, and British swarms. I think Austin just did a very good job covering what the Soviets can bring. I mean, 32 points for 16 guns, 18.9, rate of fire 2. Who would not want to take that? And that really sounds familiar to something we saw a lot in version 3, and I have yet to see it be played out in version 4, which is the pack front or pack line. The basic premises of this is you take your Germans, you take your infantry platoons, but then you take as many pack guns as you can, your pack 40s, your pack 38s, your pack 36s. And I think in mid-war you could have a lot of options on your ability to do that. Two that really stick out to me is the Panzergrenadier and Grenadier formation, where you're able to take 2 platoons of the Pac 38s, and then you're able to take a support platoon of either Pac 40s, Pac 38s, and the Pac 36s, which is Steel Granat, I think is an excellent choice. And the Fast Company and the core options, you can take the either Pac 40 or Pac 38 platoon, and then 2 Pac 36 platoons, and you still have that support option to take another Pac platoon. That is so much firepower going downrange. Now, I will say that to me that list becomes very static, but if you have someone at the club who keeps running the same tank list over and over again, this might be an option for you to stop that tank list in its tracks, or at least give him some pause before he comes in to engage you. What do you think, Austin?
I've played against this in version 4 since it came out, and it's a scary list, especially if you throw your own little tanks in there as well. It's just hard to get rid of those guns with a 3-up save. You can shoot them all day long, but at the end of the day, it's basically another infantry platoon save-wise. So do you go up against them and try to get behind them because no gun shields type thing, so they can't shoot you, or do you try to do a frontal assault through smoke? Or do you just sit there for a few turns and try to dig them out? It forces you as an aggressive commander to do things that you don't want to do, which is take time to do things.
I can say that the digging out always sounds like the most appealing, right? If you bring a ton of weapons and a ton of templates and you're like, all right, I got this one platoon I'm going to knock out, and then I can move him for my assault. There's no way that I will, not be able to dig him out. I'll get my hits. Eventually, he'll fail that 3-up firepower or save, and I'll get my 4-up firepower. It sounds a lot easier, but at BarageCon, going against Pete Zerfy, he brought 6-pounders with his American Rifle Company. I threw everything I had on it. I had him re-roll his saves because of repeat bombardments. Didn't kill a gun until like turn 5 where one of them died. The gun teams having a 3-up save and being dug in really, really makes it tough to get rid of.
It makes it really tough to get rid of, and that's just the one, and that's just units. And then there's other ways you can do this too with your infantry to stop light tanks, and a lot of it comes down to deployment. What's something I see a lot of, especially with newer players that may not know how the game feng shuis, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but how the game really plays out, is I see players put their objectives so far away that you can't support both objectives.
Right.
And that's a tactic that as the attacking player you can do, is force your defender to be as spread out as possible. Now, something you as the defender can do, there's nothing to say that you can't put your objective right next to the attacker's objective, or really close by, so that when you're stuck there and now my tank swarm is going against the left objective and you have everything on the right objective, what I as the tank swarm am wanting you to do is get those infantry out of their foxholes and run across the board. Because all I have to do then is veer off to the right, machine gun you in the open, and now I don't have to worry about that at all, and now I can just go over to the right objective, which is completely undefended. So a lot of the way that you can build a list to stop these tank swarms is to deploy your force in a way that you are able to defend both objectives from one location, so that you don't have to get out of your foxholes, so that you don't have to run across the board to stop a Honey Stewart, to stop an L640, to stop an armored car swarm.
Another good example to go along with that, if you got the 2 objectives placed and you start deploying your units, you don't want to place your M10s, for example, on one objective. You want to place it in the middle, because you may be able to shoot at both objectives at the same time, or if your opponent makes a full frontal assault on one objective, with you placing your M10s in the middle, you can easily counter them to that objective versus dragging them across the other objective on the other end of the table, maybe taking 2 or 3 turns to get to the position you need to be to start raining fire on your opponent.
Exactly, and it's not just 2 or 3 turns of raining fire, it's also 2 or 3 turns that you leave yourself exposed to side shots, to infantry assaults, to other ways of getting rid of those M10s or whatever asset you're bringing across the table.
Yep. And Nathaniel Duncan, he says he plays Italian infantry mostly. Italians, I think, really have a tough go going against your Soviet tanks and your Shermans, as well as your Churchill list. I think the really effective AT they have are Lancias. Now, they have the 88s as well, but granted, you can only take 2 platoons of the Lancias. I prefer my AT assets to be mobile, engaging one target, and then be able to move to engage the next one.
It's a conundrum, really, and I believe it's Lancheca. I think we were corrected in our last podcast.
Okay.
No one can say we don't try to be better. in my remaining list, I don't have any heavy guns. They're all man-pack gun teams. And early war, they're AT-6, mid-war, they're AT-7, and late war, they're AT-10, AT-9.
Mm-hmm.
But that mobility really helps me get them where I need them to be. On the other hand, I think the Italians also have the best options to bring anti-tank gun-wise. They can bring 88s. They can bring the Lanceka. These are guns that a heavy tank is not going to go out in front of if they can help it.
I just think they're very vulnerable to be killed. With the Lanceka is a 4 or 5 up save if it gets hit, and they could be hit with just bombardment, machine gun from the rear, and you gotta make a 4 or 5 up save. That's really difficult. And then the 88 is really going to be a stationary gun. I'm just going to put a template on it and leave my template there the entire time, and those 88s are eventually going to fade away. Now, what you could do is with your Italian infantry, make them not your main formation, but you could take German armored cars. That gets you access to your mortars and some more of your pack guns. I know it's not a true infantry or Italian list per se, but I really say you want to hit, if you can, that German support tree to hit those mortars. I'm in love with the mortars.
The mortars, I think, are a Axis must bring. But I hate to keep going back to the objectives and the missions, but if you're the Italian defender and you're trying to win a game, a lot of games for defender, if you choose to defend, are over by a certain term period. So a really good strategy that I use sometimes is forcing really quick turns. Now you can't force your opponent to take a quick turn, and that's on them. But what you can do is progress their turns really quickly. So yeah, those 88s, it just is a matter of time before they get dug out. And those Lanceka, it's just a matter of time before they get dug out. So if I was playing Italians, what I would do is put them as far forward as I can, get my infantry dug in as far forward of the objective as I possibly can. Leave my Lancekas and my 88s in a place that I can overlook the objective or the approach to the objective, but keep them hidden. And don't shoot them ever until the last, until you see the whites of their eyes, and then let them have it. What that does is it gives you better to hit values. It's harder for the enemy to hit you, and they have to get close to you. Now, I don't know about you, Ed, but the last thing I want to do is run out in front of an 88 battery with a Valentine or something like that.
No, not at all.
So you're making them take the long way around, which is playing to your strategy of getting through turns, and don't shoot anything. If you don't shoot anything, okay, it's my turn. I roll for my reserves, I unpin, I don't shoot, and now it's your turn. Now you go again, we're already on turn 2. You take your turn, I unpin, I roll for reserves. Oh, you did something sneaky, so now I have to move a gun team over here. This platoon's moving. All right, Ed, it's your turn again. Now I'm cycling through turns really quickly, which is putting the onus on the attacker. Oh, crap. Now I only have 3 more effective turns to win the game, or 4 more effective turns to win the game. If I choose not to do anything, I'm harder to hit, I'm harder to kill, and it also gets me closer towards my win condition, which is last so long against an attacking force.
Yeah, and another tactic the Italians can use, and I've seen this used by an Italian player, Jeffrey Whitlock, at Games Tavern with Lancias. He smoked one side of the field, and his Lancias focused on the platoon that was not smoked. He eliminated the platoon. Now he had one other platoon of tanks to deal with, and when the smoke lifted a full turn later, his Lancias were able to deal with it. So as your opponent approaches you, if you're able to smoke part of his attacking force and then hammer down on that one platoon, you can whittle down the attacking force so that by the time it gets to you, it's severely under strength and is not going to be able to launch the assault on your positions the way your opponent would want to. You can greatly turn the odds in your favor.
Yeah, absolutely you can. And that's, divide and conquer is a really good tactic, especially once you start getting into late war, and then into Team Yankee, where guns become very deadly. If you get hit, you will probably die. So if you can force all of your firepower on a particular platoon and remove that platoon, well, now all of a sudden you don't have to worry about that platoon anymore.
Right.
So that the whole, don't worry about the left side of the table, I'll worry about that next turn. But I'm really going to focus on the right side, and now I'll beat them up really bad. Okay, he's probably not going to assault me with 2 tanks and a 4-man infantry platoon. Next turn, now I'll worry about all the stuff over here. So, yeah, that is a great way to stop an attack.
Yep, I fully agree. I'm hoping that Preston Jacobs, Nathaniel J. Duncan, that we're able to answer your questions well. If you don't think so, please let us know. We would like to answer your questions fully, but we hope you were able to take what we gave you and you guys are able to use it on the tabletop in your opponents in the near future. Speaking of the near future, I just want to give a rundown of quick events that are coming up, and then we're going to talk about briefly next week's topics. Again, October 20th, we have the No Dice No Glory and TAPS event, charity event. That's going to be in Fredericksburg. We also have the Ironman Fallen events, November 9th and November 10th in Lancaster. Team Yankee 70 points, Mid-War 91 points. Person who wins the highest ranking at both Team Yankee and Mid-War combined will win the Iron Tom, and everybody who participates will get 20% off your entire purchase at Battlefront at that booth that weekend, which is a great time to buy those units that you don't have, you don't want to spend the money on. After that, we have 2 exciting events on December 15th. First one is at Games and Stuff in Maryland. It is Late War 1555 that is being run by Brian Sullivan. You can check out on our forums and our events calendar for more information on that. Also happening December 15th, Holiday Hostility run by Robert Bonkamp. It is Mid-War 109 points, which is the new net points level sent out by Battlefront. It's run at Hit Point Hobbies in Aberdeen, North Carolina. Now, Austin, for our topics next week, we have to discuss what we think our best command cards are. I think that's going to be a very interesting discussion. I have one that's in my back pocket that I feel really confident about. I'm going to try to expand it to maybe a top 3, top 5. What do you think?
I was about to say, if you're going to give me a top 3, I can probably fill that out 7 times over. Command cards, I love them. I love the way they play into the game. It's going to be a good discussion.
Yep, and that question was brought to us by Lucas Lane Watson on Facebook. Another great one was brought up by Pete Surfy. You want to fill us in a little bit about that?
So Pete was asking, how do you get a infantry platoon to assault a Panzer Grenadier division that's backed up by their half tracks and some heavy machine guns? I'll tell you, that's one of the hardest things in this game to do, is to assault a German player that has not shot you, that has MGs that you can't hit because they're 6s or 7s to hit, and you can't pin them down, and now they have 78 shots of defensive fire. How do you assault that?
It's tough, but Austin, you play infantry all the time. I have no doubt you're going to be able to figure this one out.
It's going to be bloody.
Yes, it is. Well, guys, thank you again for your feedback. I'm hope that we were able to give you a podcast that you guys can enjoy. Again, if you have any questions, any help, please let us know. We love talking about Flames of War, and we love to see people improve because we don't like to run over our opponents, right? We like the challenging games. The challenging games are always the most fun games.
Yep, that is the truth. So anything we can do to help, and anything that we can do to help ourselves.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, once again, thank you guys for listening. I'm Ed Sales.
And I'm Austin Copty.
And we'll catch you guys next time.
And in 3, 2, 1, end recording, click.
Thanks so much for joining the show tonight. Remember to follow us on Twitter at No Dice, No Glory, and keep the conversation going on NoDiceNoGlory.com, now featuring our own message boards. Have a great night, everybody.